All right,
So
welcome everybody. We can do a roll call.
Ismael Rivera from District 1.
Pingshen Chen from District 1.
Nicola Vey O'Brien from District 3.
Joel Wallen,
Steve
District
from
5.
District 2.
And Toyin, are you able to unmute?
Yes. Oh, I wasn't sure if everybody went. Yes, this is Toyin Kimberly, District 2.
Lena, I know Steve and I went at the same time. Did you get both of us? Great. All right, thank you. So we can move on to reviewing the minutes from last Wednesday, March 4th. Any comments? Can I make a motion to approve?
Yeah, I can make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Izzy. In a second.
I'll second that.
Second.
Great. And then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes in approval of the minutes from 3-4. All right, then are we ready to move on to the application? So as we had discussed prior to hitting record, we will next week review all the submitted comments on all the program applications, any follow-up that we have received from in regarding our questions to applicants. And if we're good with that, let's Lena, are you okay doing a timer again?
Yes.
And we will start off with Quinsigamond Village Social Services. Anybody want to start off?
I'll start. So a lot of times I think the reason why I didn't say much last week or not as much is because I tend to have a somewhat NGO nonprofit perspective. And so hearing you guys' critical analysis was really engaging for me. And I was taking a lot of notes in reference to that. So note that. But for the Quinsig Village Community Center, I didn't even know that they existed. So that was just like really lovely to see. And the fact that they're doing food pantry and all of that was just really, really good. And they were very specific, you know, it was like, this is what we do. These are the number of people that we're serving. And so I really like that really lovely breakdown of a lot of the sort of feedback. And I think anything that has to do with like food insecurity, I'm always for that. And so that's just my take on this grant. Thank you.
I had a Toyin, first of all, I agree very much with you. There's a lot of outputs that are very well written. And there was over 200, I think, that weren't just like 205 measurable results beyond just getting general info or using the fax machine. I like how the organization performs a lot of outreach, and they highlighted that in their application. I love to see an audit that's unqualified with no negative findings. I did have a question about, it's in the budget, like that spreadsheet. It's management fee, and in parentheses, it's 15% of CDBG grant per, I'm guessing that's memorandum of understanding. What does that mean? Do I need to know what that means?
What I understood from that, I did look at that earlier. And I mean, and actually maybe Greg, you might be able to answer this more better than I can. But my understanding is that those are the fees for the organization that's over you taking over sort of like the finances and stuff like that. It's sort of like that cost.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
So-
correct. That is correct.
That's what I
Okay,
understood.
so it's for Friendly House, right?
Yes,
Ben?
that's correct.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That clears it up.
You're welcome. Yeah. And I also, just to add to it, I mean, I did appreciate the level of details in terms of the assessment and determining sort of like the needs and what they will do step by step. I think that was very well detailed in their plan.
I agree.
And it's a very modest budget, and the cost per member, I think, is reasonable.
Normally, I use the keywords after I read the application. On this application, I wrote reasonable. It's a very reasonable application.
Mhm.
So it's good.
So I hear consensus. Does anyone have any other questions and would like to move on to the Rachel tables?
Thanks, Susie.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll move on to Rachel's table. And I'll just start off. I'm on the board of directors, so I will be recusing myself for this one.
I also liked Rachel's table. It's pretty cool. I'm discovering things that are happening here in Worcester and not being privy to that. And so the fact that they're having milks and everything delivered to kids underage is really powerful, I think, because we know the price of milk keeps going up, and the fact that you just have that readily available is really great. Also, the pricing per unit is reasonable. It's about, I think, like less than $20. I thought that was really good. But I mean, I can get into the nitty gritty and figure like what are they doing, but they're not asking for a lot, and it's just it's about 10% of of their budget. So I thought that was just really good.
Yeah, I would echo Tanya, and I also would add that throughout the application, it was very well written. I enjoyed reading the different foundations that are supporting the organization, as well as the outcomes and the cost per unit. Very reasonable. And the impact in the community, I think is great.
Yeah, I know a lot goes into the program, but it seems very straightforward, which is source milk from Gibson's farm, get it to kids at 19 different agencies. There's a lot of leveraging of other funds. I like that CDBG funds. I said this last year. It's not it's not going to salaries at all. It's just going to the cost of the milk program. Although I don't knock other applications that it will go to salary. These are unrestricted funds in that way. But it is nice to see. Yeah, I think I think that's it. Yeah, the leveraging is great. The
Mhm.
and the fact that it's only what 11% of the or
Mhm.
13%, something like that, is yeah.
It's
As
like
Pam would say,
10%.
it's
Yeah.
as she said on her last application or this last application, I think this one is reasonable.
This one I wrote is needed, is a necessity. I love the application so specific about how many gallon, how many people, how much they're gonna use money for. It's like a so simple, clean, and application. And also speak to me. Is I think about milk, I think about kids, baby, and people need nutrition. So this is if they need food, this is the best food to get nutrition.
All right, any other comments on Rachel's table?
Nope, we can move on.
Moving on to
Revive of the USA Inc.
thank you. Sorry, I thought I skipped a tab. Revive of the USA, a $10,000 request.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that wasn't clear is whether they actually, I mean, I think the cost, I mean, obviously, it's not a huge ask. It's a $10,000 grant. They have been in existence for like probably 3 years. They haven't been around that long. And my question was, and I don't know, Lena or Greg, if you have answers to that, but did they submit like any type of agreement in collaboration with advocates for those 2 residential services that they state they're thinking of working with?
So just by way of background, this organization is fairly new. It was started by a kind of lived experience former addict,
Mhm.
who was also some sort of, I think it was like a football star of sorts, before his life kind of got off the path. And we gave them ARPA funds, quite a bit of ARPA funds. I want to say I believe it was under 100K, but they manage those funds very well, and perform their services very well, and they're starting to grow. Their model, since they don't have a stick and brick, is really just kind of like going in, is particularly with the ARPA money, and kind of working with other organizations. What that actually looks like, if it's an MOU between them and the other organizations, I don't know. I don't know if they mentioned it in their actual application. I can't remember, but that's kind of how they function. They'll work with, let's say, I'm just throwing out generic names, let's say Friendly House or some other organization that does social services and has space within their existing headquarters to provide these services.
Mhm.
And a lot of the funds usually so they can expand that reach.
Yeah.
Expand the time frame, and then maybe even potentially eventually expand their staff. But that's what I know about them. I would say that honestly, quite honestly, I would say they're probably one of the top. I didn't predict this at the beginning, but they're probably one of the top 5 in terms of having administered the ARPA grant very well for social services.
Yeah, no, that was my sense as well. I know that they're already in existence a little bit. I mean, I was working with Better Life Partners. That's how I was introduced to them, and they do a significant amount of work across, the area, and they have tons of sponsors that support them.
To your question about what was submitted, we do receive other information from the applicant, which I have in front of me right now, which includes their most recent financial audit and articles of incorporation, which obviously we don't share to everybody. But we do go through that internally. They did submit a pretty large packet which included those things, but also included marketing materials for their organization, proof that they are already registered in SAM.gov, which required of them. But yes, I don't see anything specific to partnerships. But you know, some of that information is in their financial audit as well.
I mean, other than that, I mean, the model and what they're able to do within the residential services, I think, in my understanding, they're definitely a need. So if Advocates is welcoming them to provide such services within their programs, I mean, I don't see any issue with it.
The part of the application that stood out to me, which, I mean, it's their narrative, so you can take it with more of a grain of salt, but they wrote 95%, over 95% of Revive's pilot funded programs continue beyond the initial funding period through direct billing or partner budget support. I almost felt like this application was written to say that CDBG funding would be used just for the pilot program. I wouldn't be surprised to not see it come back next year because of that, but I'd be fine if it did. It sounds like a good program with a lot of sustainability and continuity.
So that may also be in reference to funding that I believe they may have also received subsequently from Health and Human Services, which is another division and department within the City of Worcester.
Other than that, I don't have any other questions. Does anyone else have any other questions or thoughts?
Hi, it's
Sorry.
Jamie. I just wanted to say I agree with you guys too. I think it's really encouraging as a younger organization to see the sustainability and just the diversity. It just seems really sophisticated from a diversified fundraising point of view for young organizations. So I think it's a great thing just to encourage other people to apply and engage with the city like that. It's very encouraging.
All right, let's move on to Southeast Asian Coalition. First of two applications. This is for their direct and referral services, 78,000.
Yeah, I mean that one. First, I mean, I think it's a strong application process. I mean, a strong application, very detailed outcomes, you name it, it's all there. I think the area where I was a little confused was that in the first proposal, they do, and actually, and I remember from last year's proposal, they did provide those services, ESL, and provided tax support and sort of like referrals and case management and immigration support with the population. And in the second proposal, they're asking to do ESL as well. So I don't know if there's sort of like a duplicative service, but that was the only flag I had in terms of the facility costs. You know, their facility costs suggest that they only pay 21,000, but within the both proposals, we're covering 20,000 of that. So that was a flag that I picked up. I would say, like, if you're gonna write a proposal, write something completely different from what you write on the first proposal. So that's just sort of like my 2 cents to that. The cost per unit with the first proposal seems reasonable. The second cost per unit, and again, I'm going back and forth because they're both relevant in this case. It's quite high per cost. One of the things that was difficult, I would say, with the first one, I didn't see any issues that I feel like there's a problem. For me, it was like cut and dry, very easy to understand. The second proposal, I felt like it needed more detailed around the total number of classes that they were going to do with ESL, the total number of hours, which it comes up to 6 hours per week between the 3 different hours that they had, and whether they were going to offer more sessions within the year, or was it just 1 session per year. So some of that detail, I think, is critical when you think about the when there's only 28 members getting the services, unduplicated members.
So when you're sort of comparing the two, my sense of it is that the first one is really more about, again, quote unquote, case management. You know, we can sort of define that in different ways, but whereas the second one is kind of a deeper dive, working with clients more one-on-one over a protracted period. I think it's like 28 clients, 15 hours of structured education. So the whole idea is sort of like employment preparation, getting them poised and positioned to be able to apply for a job and hopefully gain gainful employment. So it's a lot more involved, actually. You know.
So actually, that's what I had assumed that would be the case. But my understanding from the first proposal, at least when you look at the outcomes and the measurable outputs, it suggests that it will provide ESL. It suggests that it will provide case management services, and so to me.
Yeah, so the ESL references, I don't know. I mean, I'm a little perplexed by that too. I mean, they offer ESL in general, obviously, but that may have been sort of, you know, a remnant from just the narrative that they did for both of them or something and accidentally got in there or something.
So that's the only sort of like, that's what I picked up from the proposal.
That's, I'll piggyback. Are you done? Sorry, did I mean to?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I don't want to step on you, but I will piggyback.
No, you can.
No, I'm looking at attachment A and I'm going to look at both applications again, because this one sort of threw me for a loop. The notes on both of these attachment A talk about salaries for case managers and outreach and ESL teachers. On the ESL application, it's 2. On the case management application, it just says ESL teacher. And the second line down, these operating expenses, they're the same numbers.
Yes.
And it looks like CDBG funding would account for 95% of it. So on the first application, it's 40% of rent and utilities. On the second application, it's 55% of rent and utilities. That if it's like a little mistake, that's fine. That's what the clarification I'd like to get on. Are we really funding 95% of this organization's program expenses?
I'm gonna add on what you two just noticed. I noticed a similar thing, especially the second application, employment education. What exactly you need to do to cost almost 3,000 per unit?
Mm-hmm.
What's the curriculum? What's the exact? This to me just it's not a cost effective, and but the application does not call for that. So that's just my feedback.
Yeah, and I think when I look at that pinged, when I highlighted that earlier as well, I think that when you look at the different levels of ESL courses that are offered across the state, you have like the basic ESL, then you have intermediate ESL, and then you have advanced ESL.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you're going to provide ESL, I think you need to articulate like what level of ESL you're providing, what curriculum you're providing, and if the 28 people that are making this piece is going through, you know, all 3 courses throughout the years, and then I can probably justify like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but it's really unclear to what exactly they're going to do from a program development point.
I agree.
As far as the low overlap on the ESL, I'm gonna lean on Lena for a little bit on this one. Lena, I believe you monitored both of these, or at least one of them the last year. Was there an ESL component to the case management too? Do you remember?
So the past 2 years I've been their monitor. For the past 2 years, they've been funded through just the case management portion of this. They do offer other programming on site, including ESL. That's part of like what they do as an organization, but not what we were funding. But they did, part of the case management services was just to like connecting people to what they need. And sometimes that included scheduling and enrolling them in ESL courses on site, or like providing an assessment and seeing if that was something that they needed as part of their case management services. But ESL itself was not part of that. It's more of like the initial needs assessment and connecting them to those services.
And what I see, Lena, from last year and this year's application, it suggests that 37 participants had completed the ESL program with ESG funds. See, that's a more, I guess, in terms of how people are writing the grants, at least that's how I'm interpreting it from a reviewer point of view. I would not put outcomes that are not related to ESG if they're not necessarily ESG specific.
I know we kind of skipped over the case management application. I was okay with the case management application.
Yes,
that was fine to me. It's just the two budgets kind of double dipping raised some red flags, and the ESL application was a little steep, considering we went through the literacy volunteers application earlier. It's a 10-week program at $557.78 per client, and this is a 15-hour program at almost $2,900 per client. But different programs, maybe different repertoires. I'm really just most concerned about seeing that attachment A, those sort of that overlaps.
Just going off memory, something anecdotally, we did support them out of ARPA as well for something that's more similar to their employment readiness. And I seem to recall with the last time we funded them for CDBG for this employment readiness, which I was a fan of because I love programs that actually get people into the workforce. But ironically, the ESL piece was something they couldn't meet, not because they didn't have the capacity or didn't have, people interested in it. It's just that they were actually getting jobs before they were actually able to finish the full ESL curriculum. And so that was kind of a conundrum for us because we had set that into the contract as one of the deliverables. But I believe that was the last go around with CDBG, which may have been under Anvu Sawyer before the current director.
So I wasn't really going to say much about SEAC, but I know some of the stuff that they do in the community. In reference to SEAC, they're such a unique organization because of their specialty, which is Southeast Asian. They deal with refugee and immigrants. And I know in reference to their employment preparation, I know they also work in collaboration with Seven Hills and Open Sky. And so specifically for their demographic, they have a partnership with Open Sky and Seven Hills because, Open Sky, Seven Hills is looking for demographic that, have little to no knowledge of English. And then they get them through a job prep, and that's usually for 5 months. And it's in there that they also get in to learn about, teach them English because all of those classes are in English. And so I know they do amazing work in reference to that. So yeah, I know we'll only talk about technicals, like maybe, you know, they didn't write the proposal the perfect way, but I do know some of the work that they've done because I've been in those rooms, especially at Open Sky with them. So.
Are there other comments?
Just for clarification, is there something you'd like to reach back out for?
I mean,
there
it
was
would be
questions about the
helpful,
budget,
like,
yeah.
I mean, it would have been helpful to be able to understand, like what are they actually providing with the funds in terms of like the curriculum, and whether are they doing beginnings, medium, and intermediate and high level. Is it a full year course? I mean, it's just like when I look at the total hours, it's 6 hours per week. At 3,000, it's quite deep. And over 90% is actually covering expensive. And again, I don't make those final decisions, so it really doesn't matter to me, but you know, I wanna score it fairly. And that's outside of the fact that they do amazing work. Because I don't think the work is being questioned, it's really more in terms of the model that was developed and the cost per member.
Yeah, it's not, it doesn't have to do with their work at all. Is CDAC, are they asking for CDBG funds for 95% of their mortgage? That's something that just is super troubling to me. And maybe they were getting by with ARPA funds, but if you don't really have other funds to leverage it, it's not, I don't want to use the word deceptive, but to fan it out over 2 applications, it's not, it just, Izzy and I both looked at it and were like, this doesn't seem right. So I guess, yeah, that would be my question. Are we looking to fund something like 95% of the mortgage, 95% of telephones, 95% of postage, you know, the overall, just like the 95% of the operating expenses?
So during this conversation, I pulled up their 990, which is his public record.
Great.
And they're I'm sorry, I have a split screen. They're like oh shoot. They're well over $1 million. They're
at 1 point, I think it's 1.7 million. I did check that as well, Joe.
Yeah.
But remember that even when you look at the operating budget, that doesn't really get into like what the cost of the facility is. That doesn't break it down. So I did my homework before actually. Because I wanted to see like really like what is it are we paying for? When you look at the 2 proposals together and you look at the facility and all that, I mean, at the end of the day, as I said, you know, it really is up to the city to decide, but we're just scoring it and giving our like open opinion about them.
Yeah.
And just so it's clear, although I think it is clear to everyone that the way these contracts are set up is per the cost per unit. So we're not getting fractional costs of their mortgage and whatnot. We're paying for the outcomes related to the contract. Although I agree, the budget probably needs some clarification in that regard.
Is everyone in agreement to reach out about the budget?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yes.
I know we just discussed both applications, but I don't want to give time if people have additional comments. If them having 2 applications, you know, if we want to take more than 20 minutes to discuss them, we can. Are there additional comments on either? Okay. We can move on to number 17, Southwestern Neighborhood Improvement Co. Their neighborhood center. 68,500 requests.
So that one, I was a little puzzled as well. I mean, it seems like the friendly house outcomes are being used by everybody and everyone in central Massachusetts. I wish someone sort of like really decided to clean that up a little bit. But then I realized that they used to be under friendly house, and I think that explains that. But so I did chuckle on that one when I was reading it. But the piece that puzzled me the most was the 50,000 K under supplies, in only 18,000 under program staff. I need to understand what that $50,000 supply item is. Like break it down. It doesn't really say anything across the proposal what those funds will be used for. But yet they highlight the provisions will be to provide case management services and supported referrals to people in the community. So not sure how. I think that would be a clarification before I can even think of like looking at it.
I think that would be a legitimate inquiry, and I do have to mention that we didn't fund this organization last year, and as was mentioned or alluded to, Friendly House was basically like their fiscal agent for a handful of years. They had a change in leadership at least twice, and the last go around, which wasn't this CDBG year but the prior one, we actually had frankly some findings. Which is rare to have an actual finding. You break things down by, concerns, there's multiple levels. Finding is the most serious, and that related more to their financial management system. So I think we're going to have just the staff and administration, we're going to have some questions for them around that before we even consider whether or not this is something that's supportable again. So
other than that, I mean, I think I'm not sure I want to waste too much time on it, to be honest with you. But if anyone else feels the need to spend another 5 minutes on it, I'm okay.
I got another 17 minutes on this, Izzy. I don't know. I've kind of mixed feelings with people that like. I don't know exactly where I personally land. I'm curious if anyone else has perspectives of like how they leverage funds needed versus like in-kind donations they're receiving from the Worcester County Food Bank. And I'm not trying to pick up like I'm not trying to specifically highlight the Worcester County Food Bank. It's just that some of these pantries. I mean that's tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of in-kind donation. I mean, it's the majority of what they do is food. And so just how do you kind of account for that? I don't know. And they have it listed twice kind of on their breakdown. And then it's like, well, are you paying for food, but then the remaining food is being donated by the Worcester County Food Bank? Is that the kind of assumption we're making?
Yeah. Well, the Worcester County Food Bank charges a small fee for the food that they give.
I don't think that's true.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay.
You have to. So it's not just like you ask them for food and they give it to you and there's no cost and everything. But I think we can ask that. But
yeah. But I think that's exactly my point, Steve and Joel, that I feel like I shouldn't have to rely on us to figure out like what are they trying to say there. I think that's really their job to articulate, like, here's what we receive, here's how much it's paid for through such and such organization for food. I think that the a proposal as a whole is weak.
Yeah, this not to pull another application in, but just for kind of context of one of my mental challenges with this is like it was similar to the central conversation in their food bank or their food pantry last week, where we were discussing, well, like, why their numbers look so different one year over the next? Are they accounting for in-kind one year, then not accounting for it the next year? And it's really big. And I do think with us funding or potentially funding a number of Worcester County Food Bank partners, we really should get clarity on that if they do charge their partners. My understanding is that unlike the Boston Food Bank, Worcester County Food Bank does not.
Right.
They may not charge them, but there is a value put to the food.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, USDA attributes a value for poundage of food, but to me that's a big difference. If you're saying, hey, we need $10,000 because we're going to be because we're getting food, but then you actually get the food for free. I mean, again, if you're building in truck rental or some or employee time, but like, to me it's similar as if you go to Shaw's and pick up 500 pounds of food, you can associate a dollar amount donation to that. What you can't say is we need $10,000 to purchase food from Shaw's when Shaw's is giving you the food for free. You can say we need $10,000 for a truck or $10,000 for staff or gas, but not for the food itself.
Right. Unless you're getting food vouchers, right, for a specific grocery store, then that would be different too. But
yeah.
100% with you, Joel.
Other thoughts or questions about this? We went about 4 minutes too long for Izzy on that one. Okay, Salvation Army, application number 18.
This was an application where I thought the Salvation Army sold themselves a little bit short on their budget sheet. In that it only calculated case management clients. It didn't put in I think the food pantry clients, the food assistant clients. So I think that brings the cost down per unduplicated household by like a lot. But maybe that's not at minimum. If it was 240 unduplicated clients, it would be $41.67 per household. And if it was 200, assuming that the 72 case management clients use the food services, and if you were to add them together, it would be like $32, $32.05 per unduplicated household. So I think that if I'm calculating it right, that's important to note. The application was written well. They did some good statistics under program need. There's been a 25.7 increase in their grocery orders from the previous year. I mean, we can all feel that kind of pinch. A 530% increase from interviews and referrals. So they really laid out the need for this program, I think, very well. Same with the outputs and outcomes. The 1 year outcome, it's always good to see. Although I guess I refer to those more as outputs, but that's fine.
Greg, is this a new? Have we funded them in the past?
Yes, we have, but in different services.
It's not a new application, and it's a loaded question.
Well, that's why I said we have funded them, but not for the same categories.
I was wondering if that was a factor for them asking for 10,000.
Last year we had one for
Well, the
10,000.
10,000 is probably putting them in the new application category, which it was several years ago that they applied and the contract never materialized. And I don't even want to go into that. It was on both parties, both us and them. So we didn't technically fund them. But
Last
anyway,
year?
no,
Because they had the Sally's program last year through the Salvation Army.
They were not
yeah, we did.
awarded for
Oh,
that
yeah, you're right.
application.
You're
Oh,
correct.
they weren't? Okay.
You're correct. We did not fund them, but there was a prior iteration before you were even on the committee. I'm going back 6 years or so. And that contract never materialized, even though they were intended to be funded. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
it has nothing, it's no reflection of the organization or anything. It's just other things that happened.
But so
Yeah, the way
this
I know-
program and Revive of the USA are being considered as part of the new applicant threshold, like they're under the new applicant threshold and they're eligible.
Great. That's what I was. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, the 10,000, I believe, gets them that special consideration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what I saw was the cost per, I mean, I was looking at more by the cost per food, which was 1838. Looking at the supply line item. But you know, when they provide the case management and all, it comes to 138 per member. But overall, I felt like it was a strong proposal. I really didn't have anything negative to say besides, you know, food has become very insecure everywhere. So, but there's a lot of food applications.
Any other comments?
I mean, I like the application as well, and I agree with Nicole. With all the work that Salvation Army does in Worcester, I thought they would ask for more, but then clarifying and saying this is sort of like a new category for them, kind of like made sense. But yeah, it was a really good application.
Okay, great. Moving on to 19 United Way for Youth Connect.
Just that, gonna give them the money. Very simple.
It's another necessary for youth in the summer program. Very important and necessary. Yeah, I agree. Give them money. It's an easy. This is an easy application.
They also have a great collaboration across the board with other agencies. And
Definitely.
Yeah.
last year, I remember that very well. And I appreciated the level of work that it takes to create those type of partnerships and to maintain those partnerships. And it seems like they've been able to do that pretty well. So not something easy to be done and retain. And the cost per unit, obviously, when it comes to kid and the level of work that they're doing with after schools and all that. And yep, very good proposal.
I like how if you hear my child in the background, my bad. She's having a fit downstairs, but I do like how transportation is included in all of this.
Yep.
That is important. Steve has taught me that is important. I also liked under question 10, the fact that they offer a lot of donor interaction too, to keep the donors abreast of the program. This is just like a general note from me. It's interesting to see an organization. I've seen the United Way of Central Mass as the donor for a lot of funds for these applications. I know it doesn't necessarily have to do with their program, like what they're requesting for this, but I do think it's interesting, the inceptionness of it. But I think that's just an aside for me. I don't think that's gonna, have that contribute to the application at all.
But I do notice that as well.
Greg, you have some background to how United Way became almost like the fiscal agent for Youth Connect, correct?
Yeah, I think that's what they are really.
Yeah, they used to be, U Inc., I believe.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if it's transferred to another organization in the interim, but ultimately United Way ended up inheriting it and being the kind of coordinator, manager, fiscal agent.
And I think it's also probably, I mean, my understanding from last time when we reviewed it, it provided some objectivity, not to have it run by a youth organization.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the genesis of the decision for that was, but I will say that there has been, and I think I mentioned this last time, quite a bit of cost creep once United Way sort of took it over the last few years. As you know, we're capped at how much we can spend on public services. Usually it comes in at, around 600,000 or so. This is now, a sixth of it almost, obviously, with the ask that they've been making. But
I think it's the transportation. It's just so expensive.
Yeah.
Like I'm surprised that the public schools are not supporting some of that, given that they have so many school buses. Maybe that's something we can look at, Greg.
But this is summertime.
Yeah, but that's another reason why I think using the public schools buses might be much more cost effective.
I think
because they're not being operating in the summer. I mean, maybe paying a couple of, the school buses people, like they might be able to bring that cost down drastically.
Yeah, from my experience, like renting school buses is astronomical versus like an agency 15 passenger van. A number of these organizations have their own. I mean, that's my assumption is that at least half of these organizations have their own vehicles already. And I hate to say it, but if you have somebody in their 20s that you're paying $23 an hour to drive kids around in the agency van, you're not gonna be able to beat that with a school bus. Coming from a former 25-year-old who used to drive kids around in an agency van.
Yeah, I used to borrow JRI school buses to take kids around, and I would drive myself. I was a volunteer in kind deed I used to do with the kids. So I think that there's always a way. We just have to create those partnerships. But either way, it's a great program.
Any other questions about Youth Connect or comments? Moving on to application number 20, staying with our transportation conversation. Worcester Housing Authority, transportation for seniors, 60,000 request.
That was another one we reviewed last year. I think it's definitely a huge need. Transportation, especially for seniors across the board, it's always been a problem. I think it's money well spent. I did see that this year that the cost per unit went up drastically. I think was it 50%, if I recall? I think it went up a lot. But still, that's 85 people. But that was the only that I saw from last year's proposal that I recall. But I can't remember exactly what it was, but I do recall it was like around $200 and something per unit rather than $456.
Good memory.
Were you saying that this year's more or last year was more?
This year's more per unit.
Last year was twice as much. Last year
The-
was, right, senior center transportation program.
Yes.
Last year was 889.56 per each participant.
Well, it's not clear because the
Sure.
budget I have shows 3 different CPUs, so.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Huh.
Hmm.
So that may be something we need to see clarity from them on.
I make a recommendation that we ask for clarity on that.
Yeah. Now I'm looking and I'm seeing the different numbers. I'll add that they met their writer goal for last year. So it's not like the program is dwindling. They're effectively reaching writers.
Mhm.
And I like how they're aiming for more. So hopefully this program will continue to expand.
Especially
Yeah,
if people
so
are
it looks like
aging.
the spreadsheet, I don't know if they corrupted the formula or what, but we'll circle back with them, but it looks like the first column, which is a 71373, really should be the number for the other two as well.
They're currently under contract for this year at 607.
Well, at the rate gas is going, they'll probably be underwater with it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, let's not go there.
Oh, yeah.
I might, as I age, I hope this program still exists.
So I will reach out to WHA to clarify the cost per unit being reported in their budget attachment. Is that the consensus? Okay.
Yes, please.
Sounds good.
All right, any other comments, Worcester Housing Authority? Okay, then moving on to the last one, Worcester Rise. Patient Navigator, 102,000.
So I'm not affiliated with them. I'm not part of their board or anything, but I am familiar with the organization and also the executive director. So I don't know if I can still speak on it. So yeah. Okay, cool. Just like, let me be fully transparent. So I have previously, consulted with them before, and I see the work that they do, and I know the impact that they do in the maternal space here in Worcester. So that is my bias. I'm just putting that out there as a previous doula myself. But overall, I feel like the application was good. But I feel it was also like, maybe they could have, in reference to the kind of work that they do, maybe they should have given a little bit more data. But I felt like overall, in reference to what they do and how they kind of collaborate with other agencies and other hospitals as well, and the breakdown of all of that, I feel like that was fully fleshed out. And they talked about like how each, patient navigator is, how they're paid, and whether they're full-time or all of that. So I really like that. So I would say I really like the application, but I'm open to you guys' feedback.
Greg, have we funded them before?
Last year.
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm currently monitoring this program. This is their first year being funded out of CDBG.
That was gonna be my question.
Sorry, Alina,
Yeah.
I didn't hear what you said.
This is last year was the first time they had funded them.
Yes.
But it was a very small portion I saw. Yeah. They were one of the very new contracts that have applied. I would say personally, like I have been very keeping close look at this program for lots of reasons. Because they are serving a very unique group of populations that are such in high demand, Haitian Creole and others, both from maternity purposes, from case management purposes, from legal services, and the amount of passion and dedication it's just outstanding. Obviously they're very new. They've only been around for several years. And so they're trying to sort of like, I guess, obviously from this application, you can tell that they're looking for funding to support the services that they provide. I don't know, too much about their outcomes. I mean, but I know that they have been doing a lot of work with immigrant and refugee population. They just opened up at their new location on Main Street. I did go to their open house and was quite impressed by the clinical setup, and they do have a very good working relationship with Friendly House and other partners in the community. And they do have a lot of data that was reflected in the scope of in section 3 as well in section 2 that I was it was good to see the census there as well. They, in terms of the number of units and measurable outputs and outcomes, I do like the fact that they specifically indicate how many people they will serve, and how many people are uninsured and so on and so forth. So that's really like kind of like my sort of census to it. I don't know, obviously, like what's the amount of funds that are available in the city. So that's your job, right? But it was a good proposal to see.
Yeah, it's kind of a rich ask, honestly. It'll be
Mhm.
difficult to
I agree.
fit into the budget. But that again is not detracting from what they do or anything.
That's right.
Yeah. I think very good comments. I would agree with that assessment. Other comments? Any other final comments about all the applications that we reviewed today? All right, so we are scheduled for next week as well, correct?
We made it for 7:09. Holy moly. This is a sad story.
I will have a question about next week, but it shouldn't bog us down too much. Some of the applications, Greg, for next week, I remember you saying that some applications might not be eligible.
Oh, yeah.
Should we be reviewing those at all?
Well,
Or is it an
Discretion.
exercise in futility?
well, isn't it all? No, I'm just kidding. So we had that question internally amongst our staff, and I opted to go ahead and put all of them in and evaluate all of them because it is an RFP. I can't just prematurely toss something. And I don't know that, some of them are on the fence, so to speak. I mean, they
Yeah.
may not be eligible for this, they may be eligible for other things, so it's still worth kind of evaluating them. But you can certainly do a more cursory evaluation if I say that they probably wouldn't be eligible when we start discussing them. But are there any that jump out at you that?
Well, I haven't
mean-
looked at them yet. Listen, we're
Oh,
going
okay.
week by week here, so.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah. Some of them would fit more in the housing bucket. Some of them just aren't even eligible, on and on and on. So, but I didn't want to just make some sort of unilateral administrative decision to not even consider people that applied. If you recall, we had one last year. I think it was like a small business that, like a tourism agency or something like that.
Yeah.
So, we still evaluated that.
So for next week, we should have responses from all the organizations that you've requested clarification for, and I will be including that as an item on the agenda. I'm so sorry that it wasn't included this week, but
No problem at all. Are we committing to reviewing all these applications then? Next week? Or,
And
or, I mean,
for some,
I guess my question, I maybe I should further elaborate. All the public facilities only, or do we want to split it up? Do, the interdepartmental, what are people's thoughts?
I think we should try to do them all. The facility should be a lot easier than the services, I think. More straight ahead.
that's a lot.
It would be an aggressive agenda, and especially if you're going to throw in discussion of the feedback on the questions.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe we do 10, then combine the rest of them with the interdepartmental for another meeting. So we can have a balanced agenda.
So through, say, Joan of Arc,
Well, technically, there is only 11 left. No. 12 left, right?
Hmm?
Am I
Sorry?
right? There's only 12 left, am I correct?
no.
I think 15 services, facilities.
And then there's the interdepartmental.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it's just that they don't all have tabs.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's
correct.
what it is.
There's like
Yeah,
19.
yeah. Flip back to the front page.
Yeah, I had to do that because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm counting wrong.
So yeah,
Yes.
if we do,
yeah,
that
sorry,
would
the
be
binders
way-
were so large that we could not possibly fit any more paper in there for some of you, so there's no
were-
tab.
There were too many single pages rather than double-sided.
I agree with Joel. If we did applications 22 to 31 next week, then we could do 32 to 41 the week after. Splits it up, I think evenly.
Yeah, evenly. And then we're done.
Okay. We won't take a formal motion, but can we get people in consensus on that?
If you guys want to do that, that's fine, but just one last thing, again, if you're going to talk about the questions as well, you would do that plus 10, whereas the last meeting would just be 10, obviously. So I don't know if you want to make the first or like the next meeting slightly less, but clear, it's up to you, whatever you guys want to do.
I would say let's come prepared to do the answers plus 10. If Steve's prediction about public facilities is accurate, then we should be able to do that.
yeah. I don't think it could really take that long for those, but anyway.
Well, I
I'm
think
going
with
for
the
it.
public facility, the issue is that, there are some things that, we need like an expert to answer. Like when I look at the Latin American Center, like the Regis one, where like the cost of installing, sprinklers in their unit is over $200,000. Is that like, I can't see that actually costing that much, but Like, how do you respond? How do you determine that?
Well, the good news is that the proposals are capped at 195 grand. I don't know. I think Greg
Mhm.
mentioned that in week one. He's like, I don't know why they're asking for $218,000.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only that, I mean, the sort of answer to that is they're supposed to get professional estimates, right? So,
Yeah.
And if they're not in here, you just basically, what do you do?
well, you refer to your scoring guy, Ruben. I think we had built that into the
Incomplete.
new rubric. We built that into the new rubric, whether or not they have estimates and.
Oh, no.
Like, you don't go back to the agency with clarification, or is this a time when
Maybe
you don't do
it would
that?
be too late to get estimates at this point, and
Yeah.
you know, so like if somebody's just spitballing how much they think a project's going to be, just taking some guesses with their own staff, that's not going to hold as much credence, right? As like if they actually went out and got one or even two or three professional estimates.
And so last question, is that clear in the application process and the RFP that you have to get like copies of different, okay, awesome,
Yeah.
that's good to know. Because that helps me understand like how we should grade them.
All right, so I'm prepared to discuss 10 of the public, the first 10 of the public facilities next Wednesday, as well as the responses on the programs, public services side.
Okay.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes,
I
I
would
move to
ju-
adjourn this meeting.
Go with, I second.
Motion by Nicole, second by Ismail. All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
I was too happy.